सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So today, the topic for discussion are the verses 32 to the end of the 11th chapter. So verse 38, 39 of the 11th chapter in the first canto of Bhagavatam. So this is the chapter that speaks about Krishna's entrance into Dwaraka. Now, the initial verses of the chapter, the first 30, 31 verses of the chapter, they have described the Krishna's entrance and the reaction and the response, the prema of the general residents of Dwaraka. Then Krishna's immediate family members, his father, his mothers, his sons, which will actually be described now, but his fathers and mothers were also described. Now, this is the second time in the Bhagavatam that Krishna's conjugal relationships are being spoken of. The first time it was spoken of was in Bhishma's prayers, where he references the love of the gopis of Vrindavan. However, this is the first time that we actually see an interaction directly in the pastimes of the Lord between the Lord and his queens or his or devotees in the relationship of conjugal rasa. Now, this topic was introduced from text 30, where it was said, Ata Vishad Swabhavanam. So, Ata, at that time, after having completed his interaction and relationships with many other of his other associates in Dwaraka, Ata Avishad, he entered Swabhavanam, his own personal palace. The other palaces were either like the general structure of the city or the house of his parents. As soon as he entered the city, he greeted the Lord, reciprocated with all the residents of Dwaraka. Then he went forward through decorated streets to meet his superiors and took their blessings and exchange affection with them. After having exchanged affection with them, he then went to his personal palaces. This also shows a lot of culture and etiquette. Generally, when we come home, What about now? Okay. So is it being broadcast? Okay. Thank you so much. I'm not sure what's happening at the moment, but okay. Hare Krishna. So I'm really sorry about this. So Sarva Kamam Anuttamam. So Krishna, he personally first went to his. He was in the general courtyard of Dwaraka, and then he went through to greet his superiors and seek their blessings and their permission first, prior to entering his own palace. This shows. I mean, this is etiquette. And then Krishna went to his personal palaces, where Yatra Patinam Sahasrani Cha Shodasha, where over 16,000, Prabhupada says, 16,108 wives were present in each one of those 16,108 palaces. So Krishna there split into 16,108 forms and simultaneously entered each palace. So from text 31, the reactions of each of these queens have been described. I understand that text 31 has been covered, so I'll just briefly mention it for continuity, and then move on to text 32. Each of the queens actually thought that Krishna was personally coming to them first, and that was their personal ecstasy. So text 31 says, Patnya patim proshya grihanu pagatam. So from a distance, uh, they saw him coming home. He had been away from home, Prussia, for a very, very long time. And these ladies, Patnya, they'd been engaged in great austerities in Krishna's absence. Uh, it is said that when the husband is away from home, the wife should neither visit others socially nor dress nicely, but should rather engage in austerities, waiting for her husband to come back. So that was the particular status of each of the wives, because they didn't know that Krishna was coming that day. But Patnya, these wives, Patim Prosya, seeing him, their husband, their soul, who had gone and left and who had been away from Dwaraka for such a very long time, Griha Anupagatam, he was now returning home. And seeing this Vilokya, Sanjata, within their mind, the moment they realized that Krishna was walking and they saw him coming towards the house, oh, Krishna's coming to my home first, they thought. And the moment they saw that, there was just Sanjata in their mind, there was such an extraordinary ecstasy which came about. Mano Mahotsava, and the ecstasy was like a festival. Sometimes in one's consciousness, when one thinks of Janmashtami or when one thinks of Kirtan Mela, it's like a festival of the holy names. There's dancing, there's Mridanga, there are kartals. So many individual devotees dressed so nicely are dancing for the pleasure of the Lord. It's like a festival, a festivity of celebration. There's happiness and there's joy, and it just is contagiously spreading around. But within their mind, such a festival was completely inaugurated. Sanjata Mano Mahotsava. It was like they came out alive again. Uttastur Arat. So seeing him from a distance, they just saw him coming from a great distance. Uttastur Arat, they immediately got up. Sahasa means immediately. Asana, from their seats. Ashayat, from their state of meditation. They'd been engaged in austerities. Sakam Vrate. What this means is that they'd been dressed appropriate to performing austerities. If they had known that Krishna was coming, they would have bedecked themselves with the finest cloth, jewelry, in such a way that Krishna would feel attracted to them when they would come home for Krishna's pleasure. They would have try to decorate themselves as much as they possibly could. But they got up immediately from their seats. They got up from their meditations and austerities, along with the particular dress or whatever they were wearing. If someone had durva grass on their finger, they would get up with the durva grass. Now, typically, it is not considered proper to see somebody in that state. But when Krishna saw them in that state, Hridita Lochananana, and out of shyness, they wanted to get up and run towards the Lord to embrace him, and to display their affection and to express their love after such long separation. But out of shyness, Vridita means shyness. So shyness, Lochananana, with eyes that were completely because their eyes they dropped, and they were just looking at Krishna coyly, like imagine if there's a veil, you'd look under the veil, or just look like this out of the corner of your eye. But they were just looking at Krishna in that particular state. And it is described when Krishna saw his wives engaged in austerity and separation from him, his heart melted with affection. Because imagine if a husband comes from a long distance and he sees his wife having a lot of fun and not missing him at all, or vice versa. If the wife comes home or parents come home and the children are completely have forgotten their parents, it's okay, but it doesn't inspire as much affection as it does when you realize that they've actually missed me. And when Krishna saw them in that state of, in that particular dress, in the particular mood of austerities that they've been performing, just waiting for Krishna to come back, Krishna's affection for his wives increased and his heart softened. Text 32, and this is where we will start. So this describes, so the first verse, 31, it described their immediate reaction, the festival that was in their mind, their desire to run and embrace the Lord, but then how they were held back by their own shyness and social custom. So Prabhupada here says, as was socially customary, they covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly. It wasn't that they did it artificially, oh, it's social custom, therefore I need to do this. Rather, it was that they were held back by their shyness. And because it was socially customary to maintain a decorum in public, so to speak, not exactly public, but they, even if a wife is alone with her husband, or there's a sense, a natural sense of shyness that exists, and you can't just openly run and express feelings just in a very brazen way. So they were just shy. They were held back by what was considered social etiquette. So text 32. Tamatmaje drishtibir hantaratmana duranta bhava parire patim nirudam api ashravadambu netrayo vilajatinam bhruguvarya vaiklavat. Translation. The insuperable ecstasy. So this is Duranta Bhava. Dhura Anta Bhava. It was very, very difficult to control their ecstasy. Anta means to end. Dura Anta means very difficult to end. Bhava is their ecstasy. So Duranta Bhava means their insuperable ecstasy. I mean, you can imagine like waves of joy. There was a wave of joy that came up, and then it just increased, and then increased, and then increased. It's almost like when somebody gets something for the first time, like imagine a kid gets a new soccer ball, or somebody gets a new laptop, or somebody gets something new. There's a feeling, a great feeling of excitement, energy, enthusiasm, and you feel like doing something and expressing your happiness. But their personal ecstasy, it didn't have a limit to it. For us, there's a sense of joy, and then it wears off a little bit. But their joy was it was rising in waves, just like the first wave, and then the second wave, and then the third wave. Duranta Bhava, it just kept increasing. The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens who were first shy, they were held back by their shyness. They first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief among the Brigus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears. So, because of their shyness, they couldn't express their emotions. This was described in 31, like openly. But then their duranta bhava, their insuperable or insuperable or uncontrollable ecstasy, rising in waves. It's like almost there's a barrier, and as you have waves that just continuously rise, that barrier of shyness was overcome, and their symptoms, in accordance with their ecstasy, just began to manifest one after another. So the phrase tam atmajair, atmajair is important because it has two meanings. One here, Prabhupada translates it as being sons, but atmajair also means that which is produced. Atma means self. So atmajair is that which is produced from the self. And what this refers to is tam atmajair drishtibir. This glance, it came from the innermost recesses of their heart. It came from their intense affection. So atmajair here refers to sons, but it also refers to affection. So from the deepest recesses of their heart, from the depth of their prema, came out, their glands. They just were drinking in the presence of the Lord through their glands, and taking the Lord in through their eyes. They first embraced him. Prabhupada says, they took him in through the eyes, and then antar atmana, they took him into their heart, and then they tightly held him there, very, very tightly held him there. And then atmajair, Prabhupada says, they then embraced him visually. Prabhupada says they took him into their heart, they kept drinking him through the eyes, and then atmajair, they sent their sons to embrace him. Now, the word atmajair indicates sons because when we speak about children, it's a very personal thing. These are my children, they're part of me. Atmajair, produced from me. So their sons who were a part of them, with whom these queens identified with, they sent their sons. And when a part of them, their sons, embraced Krishna within their heart, they felt like they were embracing Krishna also. It is completely proper for children to go towards the parents and embrace them in public. But social custom sometimes prevents this amongst husband and wife or lovers. And so therefore, first, within the innermost recesses of their heart, just drinking him in, and antaratmana, within the innermost recesses of their heart, they embraced him. And then continuously embracing him by drinking him in through the eyes, they sent their sons, who then went and embraced Krishna. And they, within their heart, felt that now I'm able to embrace Krishna. This is an actual experience, and devotees who have children or perhaps have experienced this kind of connection with someone else, they would also be able to relate to this feeling. So tam atmajay drishtibir antaratmana dhuranta bhava parirebhire. Parirebhire means embrace their husband. Nirhudhamapi, and as their ecstasy increased and as they were embracing their husband, Nirudhamapi ashruvat ambu netrayor, they were trying to hold back their tears. It is said, of course, I mean, they were trying to hold back their tears. It is not mentioned exactly why they were holding back their tears. One reason could be shyness. The other reason could be that they didn't want, generally it's a happy occasion. And if one cries, one may make the other person feel uncomfortable. But they were trying to hold back their tears. Nirudam api ashravad ambu netrayor. They were trying to hold their tears back The actual reason the Bhagavata mentions is Villa Jatinam, still a degree of shyness held back their tears. Still a degree of social custom and etiquette had held back their tears. That's the actual reason mentioned here. Bhrugu Varya Vaiklavat. But despite their attempts to hold back their tears, their feelings were so strong that some tears inevitably escaped their eyes. So the intent of this verse is to describe, after those initial feelings described in verse 31, then what happened. Prabhupada says, although due to feminine shyness there were many hindrances to embracing the dear husband, Lord Sri Krishna, the queens performed the act by seeing him, by putting him in the core of their hearts, and by sending their sons to embrace him. Still, the act remained unfinished, and the tears rolled down their cheeks despite all endeavors to check them. One indirectly embraces the husband by sending the son to embrace him, because the son is developed as part of the mother's body. The embrace of the son is not exactly the embrace of husband and wife from the sexual point of view, but the embrace of satisfaction from the affectionate point of view. The embrace of the eyes is more effective in the conjugal relation. And thus, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, there's nothing wrong in such an exchange of feeling between husband and wife. The embrace of the eyes is almost as, sometimes you may see couples who are sitting across each other and they're not able to directly communicate with each other or express their affection because of people around them or social custom. So just with their eyes, they may just do this or, just blink their eyes. But in that exchange, it is understood that, that there is, you're mine. I love you. It is indicated like that with the blinking of the eyes. Text 33. Yadyapi hasau parshva gato raho gatas tatapi tasyangri yugam navam pade pade ka virameta tatpadaj chalapi yachrirna jahati karhichit. So the intent of this verse expresses the sweetness they tasted in Krishna's association and how Krishna's association, Krishna's lotus feet, appeared ever fresh to them. So, translation. Although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their side as well as exclusively alone, so yadyapi, even though, that's what it means, yadyapi, although suddenly, even though, asau, he, Sri Krishna, parshvagato, he was just by their side, rahogato, exclusively alone. So after Krishna entered the palaces, after that initial greeting, Krishna spent time alone with his wives. So they were alone, and of course, the Lord was nearby, and they could get all of Krishna completely. And they were seeing Krishna's lotus feet up close as they were engaged in serving him. But seeing Krishna's lotus feet so close and constantly, just completely alone, exclusively for them, still, tatapi, tasya angri yugam, yugam here means two, his two lotus feet, navam pade pade, as, moment to moment, as they were engaged in serving the lotus feet of the Lord, fresh sweetness was increasingly manifesting in their heart. Their sense of attraction to Krishna's lotus feet was increasing. The attraction that one feels for Krishna is a direct it's directly correlated to the sweetness or to the depth and beauty of one's personal devotion to the Lord. To the extent that one's devotion is pure, the extent that one serves Krishna only to please the spiritual master and to please the Lord, to that extent, one increasingly experiences the sweetness of Krishna's lotus feet. And also, that's true for anything. That's true for chanting Krishna's names. That's true for studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So if one chants Krishna's names with the desire to please him, then moment to moment, there is an increasing sweetness that is experienced. if the purity is there in chanting, to the extent that one is chanting out of affection with a desire to please the Lord, moment to moment, increasingly there are depths of sweetness that one experiences. So the last two lines complete the verse. Pade pade, moment to moment, increasingly they were experiencing sweetness. The previous verse expressed Duranta Bhava, in waves their ecstasy was increasing. And their affection for Krishna was like a wave which they were expressing in various symptoms towards the Lord. And their own experience of Krishna's sweetness, pade pade, it was just moment to moment increasing. So ka virameta tat padat, who can actually give up these lotus feet? And the specific phrase uses ka shrir virameta tat padat. So which woman, which lady can give up Krishna's lotus feet? Chalapi yaj najahati karhichat. Once somebody has taken shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, who can actually give them up? And so Prabhupada points out in the purport that, of course, Shri here also can refer to the goddess of fortune. It can mean woman. It can mean the goddess of fortune. So even Mother Lakshmi is famous for flickering. And in the purport, it's of how Mother Lakshmi always changes her position. Actually, there are two forms of Mother Lakshmi. One is a material form, spiritual form. The material form of Mother Lakshmi is worshipped by people in this world, hoping to seek material fortune. The spiritual form of Lakshmi bestows, it's like Srimati Radharani, bestows access to the internal energy of the Lord, so that one can please the Lord through service. But in this verse, both the spiritual and material form of Lakshmi are combined to enhance the effect of the verse. It's the spiritual form of Lakshmi, who is always situated at Krishna's lotus feet, constantly serving him and assists devotees in reaching his lotus feet. But in drawing this comparison, the material form of Lakshmi is referenced here. So although the material form of Lakshmi is by nature very restless and moves from person to person, alternatively bestowing fortune upon one individual in this world, but then shifting her focus to somebody else at another point, even that goddess of fortune in her spiritual form, this verse says, cannot leave Krishna's lotus feet. So what to speak of Lakshmi? Which other woman can actually leave Krishna's lotus feet? The reason the Lakshmi is drawn out in this comparison is this, that Mother Lakshmi is the emblem of beauty, wealth, fame, all fortune. Basically, she's the best of all ladies, best of all women. And the best of all women, or a woman with great beauty, with great opulences, great riches, great facilities, will not be satisfied with an ordinary man or ordinary situation. She will, it's like that adage, worth it. There's always a sense of looking for better and better pastures to find a situation or somebody who can completely fill one's, who can completely satisfy every single one of their desires. So a lady who's very beautiful, traditionally, or even if we look at the world around us, typically has a greater sense of entitlement, a greater sense of what she deserves. And she won't be satisfied with a relationship until and unless she feels overwhelmed or she feels like, oh my God, this is something that is really wonderful, even for me. But Mother Lakshmi, or Shri, who is the emblem of beauty, who's the emblem of womanhood, even though by nature she's restless and moves from place to place, she never quits Krishna's lotus feet. So any lady, whoever she may be, how can they leave Krishna's lotus feet? Because Krishna's lotus feet are that shelter where anybody would feel at home. And the extraordinary thing is sometimes the phrase is used above one's league. that this man is above my league or this woman is above my league. They're well beyond what I can achieve based on my beauty, based on my wealth, etc. But Krishna's lotus feet are available to anybody, from the lowest of the low up to the highest of the high, like Mother Lakshmi. And all of them can be sheltered at Krishna's lotus feet. And Prabhupada in the purport makes clear that that every living entity is ultimately feminine in nature. So by the statement, what woman could quit Krishna's lotus feet, it is actually indicated to say that who among any living entity can quit Krishna's lotus feet. So just wanted to focus on the last paragraph of Prabhupada's purport to text 33. Generally, people engaged in service are always seeking some post under the government or the supreme enjoyer of the state. Since the Lord is the supreme enjoyer of everything in or outside the universe, it is happiness to be employed by him. Once engaged in the supreme governmental service of the Lord, no living being wishes to be relieved from the engagement. The highest perfection of human life is to seek some employment under the Lord's supreme service. That will make one extremely happy. One need not seek the moving goddess of fortune without the relation of the Lord. Now, these three verses, 32, 33, 34, are very special. It's almost like, because the Bhagavatam is so ranged as to ultimately share with us the highest ecstasies of relationship with the Supreme Lord. And the first canto, these moods are not spoken of again until we come to the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. But it's almost like the Bhagavatam gives, alongside giving us the nourishment that we need to increase our digestive capacity to digest and assimilate such sweetness. It is giving us a taste of that sweetness right in the beginning. Now, text 34, it speaks of an alternate mood to enhance the mood described previously. Now, specifically, the affection that the Krishna's wives felt for Krishna, and the affection that he felt for them, it is completely filled with emotion, completely filled with rasa. Text 34 expresses something that is without specific rasa. It deals with the Lord's pastimes in dealing with this material world. And it is provided as a contrast to the expression of Krishna's relationship so far mentioned, and especially his relationship with his wives, to highlight the sweetness and extraordinary nature of the relationship that the Lord has with his devotees. So text 34. And sometimes it's almost like, Krishna has come home, and one can imagine Krishna sitting on a chair, and just relaxing. But it is almost that, now that Krishna's mission is fulfilled, he had come, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. He had come here to relieve the burden of the world. And now that that mission was fulfilled, it's like almost a retrospective glance. What has just happened? So there are two almost intents of this verse. It's like, okay, everything is finished. Now Krishna is almost a retrospective glance. Now what has happened? What has Krishna actually accomplished? Or what has he tried to do? And also to show a contrast from the emotions spoken of previously. Evam ripanam shitipara janmanam akshohinibi parivritta chete jasam vidhaya vairam shvashano yatanalam mito vadeno parato nirayudha. Translation. The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who were burdensome to the earth. So Kshitibhara Janmanam, those who had taken birth simply to increase the burden of the world. It's like sometimes you have children and they create such a situation at home that it just becomes a burden to maintain them. It just takes so much energy. And that's really what it was. People who had just come with such a tendency, taking Krishna out of the center, putting themselves in the center, and just trying to expand their enjoyment. This is described in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Idam adya maya labdam imam prapsi manoratam idam asidam api me bhavishyati punardanam asau maya hata shatrur hani shevat chaparanapi. So here, the mood of these demons is expressed, or people whose self-centered desire to enjoy is so strong that they just want to expand their field of enjoyment. This is actually the definition of an asura. Somebody whose desire to enjoy, putting themselves in the center, this just constitutes of an expanding field of enjoyment centered around themselves. They think, I have gotten this much now, and I will want so much more in the future. Such a burden to deal with somebody who is just so focused on themselves that they neglect what other people need or want, or what inconvenience is being caused to others. It just causes a burden. Shiti bhara janmanam. So people who had just been born to increase the burden of the earth. How? Akshamhi nibi. So this by building up military prowess and ensuring protection over their domain and increasing that domain. Parivritta tejasam, and being surrounded by, parivrittam actually means to be surrounded by. The Prabhupada here translates it as being puffed up by such surroundings. Tejasam. So parivritta tejasam, by feeling powerful, by becoming powerful, having surrounded themselves by countless armies and becoming a real burden on the earth. Vidhaya Vairam, having created, Krishna inspired, not directly, but indirectly. Vidhaya Vairam, enmity, Shvasano Yatanalam, just as you have two bamboo canes that are rubbing against each other and therefore creates fire. Similarly, just like the wind does that, or the effect of the wind does that, Krishna as Paramatma, by simply inspiring the personal desires of each of these asuras. So he was not trying to tell them, you fight him, you fight him. He didn't change anybody's mind. But people had the desire to grow and expand. And all he did was, okay, you want to grow and expand, grow and expand. Another fellow wants to grow and expand, you grow and expand. Now you want to grow and expand, look, you're in each other's way. Now what do you want to do? And it was their desire to fight. But basically as Paramatma sitting within their heart, by giving them knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness as these individuals desired. Therefore, Krishna is not implicated in their action. It was these individuals who wanted to act in this particular way. But by sitting within their heart and giving them knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness as these fellows wanted, he caused them to come into each other's paths and rub against each other in the wrong way. And he caused a fire of enmity, fire of disparity, that resulted in what? The last line describes, Mito vadhena uparato nirayudha. Even though he was personally, did not once pick up a weapon, like for example, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he did not personally pick up any weapons. So despite his not even having picked up a weapon, Mito vadhena uparato, he caused all of them to be killed. He killed them all. He removed the burden of the earth. And so Prabhupada in this purport, there's a particular section I want to focus on. So Krishna says, when such misuse, this is in the middle of the purport, when such misuse of human energy is prominent, the saner living beings become perturbed by the awkward situation created by the vicious administrators, who are simply burdens of the earth. And the Lord appears by his internal potency just to save the saner section of humanity and to alleviate the burden due to earthly administrators in different parts of the world. He does not favor either of the unwanted administrators, but by his potential power, he creates potential power. Potential, that's the important phrase. Potential power. He's sitting within their heart and he inspires potential power. He creates hostility between such unwanted administrators as the air creates fire in the forest by the friction of the bamboos. Further down, Prabhupada says, similarly, the hostility between different groups of politicians takes place by the unseen design of the Lord. The unwanted administrators, puffed up by false power and military strength, thus become engaged in fighting amongst themselves over ideological conflicts, and so exhaust themselves of all powers. The history of the world reflects this factual will of the Lord, and it will continue to be enacted until the living entities are attached to the service of the Lord. Text 35. So, the question then may arise, and particularly, Sutta Goswami was describing these the interactions of the internal potencies of the Lord to the sages at Naimisharanya. For them and for people in general, if anybody were to ask, how can we understand that the Lord is actually above matter when he's enjoying himself with so many qualified ladies? So here is Sutta Goswami's answer. Sa esha nara lokesmin avatirna swamayaya reme shri ratna kutasto bhagavan prakrito yata. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, Bhagavan is the phrase used, out of his causeless mercy, avatirna swamaya, out of his causeless mercy, situated in his own internal potency, out of his own desire to benefit living entities. He appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself, Reme, amongst competent women as if engaging in mundane affairs. Sri Ratna Kutasto, so the phrase Kutasta means amongst. Kuta Asta, by being situated amongst Sri Ratna, the best among ladies. The phrase Sri Ratna can refer to the best among women, having the best qualities, capable of attracting men. It also refers to the best of individuals with prema. They were the best of ladies because they served the Lord with prema, as if engaging in mundane affairs. Now, it was as if prakrito yata, but meaning that it wasn't actually material at all. Now, why it was not material is described in verse 36. Uddhama bhava pishunamala valguhasa vridha valoka nihato madano piyasam sammuya chapa majahat pramadottamasta yasyendriyam vimatitum kuhakerna shekuhu. This verse is actually really worth memorizing. So this verse describes Krishna actually being above matter. The previous verse said that he was enjoying himself amongst the best among ladies, but his interaction with them, the causes of his pleasure, and what they did were all transcendental. This verse explains why. Uddhama bhava, here Prabhupada translates it as being very grave expression. Uddhama bhava pishuna. Pishuna means exciting. Their expressions were very grave and very captivating, exciting. One can think of like Mona Lisa's smile. It's considered to be one of the most captivating smiles because of its gravity. Gravity here means that you can't understand the mood that sits behind the smile. It's very captivating. What is she thinking? What does she actually feel? Uddhama bhava, that can be one meaning. The phrase Uddhama bhava pishuna also refers to the very, very deep emotions of prema that existed within these wives of the Lord. Amala valgu hasa, with their spotless, amala means, mala means impure, amala means pure. So with their spotless, with their pure valgu hasa and beautiful smiling faces, vridhava loka nihata madanopi yasham, and with their sidelong glances, which is considered to be the most intimate expression between a boy and a girl. Because imagine a girl, it's a sidelong glance. Nobody else knows you're looking. It's a sidelong glance, and it's just meant for you. That sidelong glance, it's so captivating. It is considered to be the most attractive feature in lady in this world. So with their sweet, smiling, pure, sweet, smiling face, there was no sense of. It's just an expression of incredible sweetness and incredible intimacy. Sweetness and intimacy. This is capable of capturing just about anybody, and it came from the depth of their prema. And of course, the verse also expresses that the mood was sometimes hard to understand. And Madana, which refers to Cupid, he had come there and he was thinking, these ladies are capable of attracting Krishna much more than I can. I can't induce Krishna to feel lust any more than these ladies can, because their sweet, smiling faces and their capable of attracting anybody, even me and Lord Shiva. So the word Madana can be either Madana or a Madana, one who was not captured by Cupid. That's Shiva. So even Shiva or Cupid, Kamadev himself, could be attracted by those sweet, smiling glances of the ladies. And Madan was thinking, if their sweet, smiling glances doesn't work, my thing is definitely not going to work. So Samuya Chapam, he gave up his bow and arrow. Ajahat, uh, he being overpowered by, being overwhelmed by, oh my God, this is so much more than what I can do. He just gave up his chapam ajahat. He gave up his bow and arrows. Pramadottamastha, those ladies who were completely capable of maddening others, the best among ladies, the best among people who could madden others by their sight, smile, glance, and gravity. Yas yendriyam vimatitum. But Krishna's indriyas, Krishna's senses, vimatitum, they were incapable of being shaken. Kuhake, here Prabhupada says by magical feats. It means by deception. So sometimes ladies, they will put on a show of affection, and that show of affection is capable of capturing another person's mind and heart. By their show of affection, they were incapable of shaking him. So this sometimes seems a little contradictory, because it suggests that on the one hand you see Uddhama Bhava Pishana, which refers to their prema, which was capable of capturing the Lord. At the same time, you see deception. Jiva Goswami answers it in this way. He says that you had different queens with different levels of prema, and each of the queens were capable of agitating the Lord according to their degree of prema. But if they artificially tried to simulate a higher degree of prema, because they felt, oh, look, Krishna's interacting with such intimacy towards Satyabhama and Rukmini, who had the highest prema in the group. I wish I could also serve the Lord with that intimacy. And they would express, they would express prema, even if they tried to, in a higher degree than they actually had themselves. Krishna was not affected by the deception of higher prema. He was just reciprocating with their degree of prema. That is the understanding of this verse. But what it says is that their deceptions, their attempt to capture Krishna by their smiles, their glances, etc., were incapable of capturing him. But it was their prema that captured him. So Krishna actually was disturbed by their smiles and glances, but by his internal by the internal prema that was expressed through their smiles and glances. But where it did not reflect prema, it did not reflect his internal potency, he was not disturbed. In either case, the idea is that he was not at all disturbed by their simple beauty or sexual appeal or intimate appeal, their sweet, just a material sense of sweetness. He was impacted by their prema for him, and the expressions that came from that prema. So, text 37. Tam ayam manyate loko hi asangam api sanginam atmaupamyena manujam vyaprinvanam yato abuddhaha. So this verse then explains why we think that Krishna is affected by something material, even though the truth has been expressed in verse 36. Tam ayam manyate loko. In this world, conditioned souls, lokaha, common men, ayam, even though they are, uh, uh, even though the Lord is unattached, a sangam, they who are attached, they perceive the Lord as being attached. Why? And the key phrase is this: Atmaupamyena, by comparison with themselves. They see that, oh, Krishna is doing this, and I do the same thing. And if Krishna does what I am doing, it means that he must be feeling what I am feeling. So by comparison to themselves, Atmaupamyena manujam, the ordinary man. Vyaprinvanam. Vyaprinvanam refers to acts that may draw censure. Vyaprinvanam. So seeing the Lord engaging in acts such as, and the example that is given is Krishna went and took a parijata tree from Indra's abode to please Satyabhama. So it may be thought that Krishna was just a henpecked husband. He went and fought with people just to get a parijata tree for his wife. It may draw censure, but such activities, these ordinary people like us, we see the Lord. If I were to do that, that would be like I'm too attached to my wife. That is a problem in me. And seeing the Lord do such a thing, we think, oh, the Lord must have a similar problem. But it is not actually reality. Text 38. Etadishanamishasya prakritistopi tadgune na yujyate sadatmaster yata buddhe sadashrayah. And here is the conclusion. Eta, this is almost a conclusion. This, Ishanam Ishasya, this is the power, Ishanam, of the Ishasya, the supreme controller. Prakritistopi, even though he is situated in this world and is capable of assimilating inputs of this world through his senses, na yujyate, he is not at all affected by them. Even though everything in this world is governed by him, even though he's capable of perceiving everything in this world, even though there were demigods situated among the Yadus who did not have complete prema, who some of their actions were material, and even though you had some demons who were material, even though Krishna was interacting with them, still he was completely impartial. He did not feel attachment, aversion. He was not affected in the dealings with them. He was only affected by prema. And the example is given yata, just as buddha is the intelligence, tadashraya, of somebody who is situated in them. And in the purport, Prabhupada gives the example of the Goswamis, who was so extraordinary that because their intelligence was situated in the Lord, they were completely unaffected by opulences equal to the demigods. Actually, of Raghunath Das Goswami, his father said in frustration, Aishwarya Stri Sama Apsara, Aishwarya Indra Sama, that he had opulences equal to Indra and a wife as beautiful as an Apsara. And he said that if these two things cannot bind our son, Raghunath Das Goswami, when he's running away to Lord Chaitanya, how can ordinary chains bind such a person? So if the intelligence of somebody, just as the intelligence of somebody who's focused on the Lord, who's taking shelter of the Lord, is not affected, similarly, the Lord, even if he's situated in this world, even if he's able to perceive things of this world, his intelligence is not affected. And text 39 summarizes and concludes this chapter. Tamme nire baladha strainam chanu vratam raha apramana vidho bhartur ishwaram matayo yatah. This verse is truly wonderful. The phrase abhala refers to delicate ladies. Abhala here it means not strong, but means somebody without bulging muscles. They were delicate frames. So these ladies who were with delicate frames, mudha. So Prabhupada says because of simplicity, what it actually means is mudha means full, but it's more here means covered. They were covered by yogamaya. And even though they were devotees with prema and capable of understanding the Supreme Lord completely, these are the devotees who come to this world and teach us about Krishna. If we can speak about Krishna, it's because they are the ones who have taught us of what to speak and what to say. So they're not Muda at all. They are the best of knowers. But tam menire, but being covered by Yogamaya, these delicate framed ladies assumed that Krishna was Trainam, attached to them like a hen-pecked husband. And Anuvratam Raha, that he would just follow them wherever they went, and they could be by their womanly affection and by controlling them as wives. Eat this, no, don't do that. I think you should sleep on this side of the bed. And by such statements, don't eat like this, and wiping Krishna's like anything that was on the side, or basically controlling Krishna through their affection. They thought Krishna will just do whatever we want him to do. We can control him by our affection. They took Krishna like that. Apramana vidho, unaware of the extent of his glories. And the example that is given here by our acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in particular, is that of an ocean. Just imagine a vast ocean, and you can sit in the background and comprehend the vastness of the ocean. But imagine you're situated in a small cove, like in a small corner of the beach. It's secluded by mountains on the side, and you're playing in the water, the sand, the sun is beautiful, and you think, this is the only part of the beach for me. It's like, this is my beach. Of course, the beach is expanding unlimitedly, or the ocean expands unlimitedly. But when one comes to build a relationship, it is personal, it is specific, and so therefore it is focused on a specific portion of the Lord. So apramana vidha, to build that specific relationship with the Lord, when one interacts with that specific segment of the beach, just as one is not aware of one does not need to be aware of the vastness of the ocean. It would prevent one from focusing on one's personal portion of the beach. Similarly, awareness of the extent of the glories of the Lord, it prevents that personal and intimate interaction with the Lord in a specific relationship. And so the Yogamaya potency, it covered them, mudha, and it allowed them to see a feature of the Lord's reciprocation as a hen-pecked husband who would follow them wherever they would go. But this was the Supreme Lord, Ishvara. They were unaware of the glories of the Lord as much as Ishvaram Matayo Yata. Just as many people have their opinions on the Supreme Lord and think he's this or think he's that, similarly, these ladies, these delicate ladies filled with prema for Krishna, similarly thought that Krishna was a hen-pecked husband following them all around, without being aware of his supreme status. Of course, for them, Krishna was a hen-pecked husband, and that's where his happiness was. But the mood of the ladies is being described, and it's a philosophical point of view that Krishna is not constrained by any relationship. He cannot be defined. Matayo, people can have a specific opinion of the Supreme Lord, can try to define him in a specific way, but he is not capable of definition because a pramana vido, one cannot actually be aware of the extent of his glories, just as one can try to define a beach as being Bondi Beach or Manly Beach, but it's the one unlimited beach, and it extends from one end to the other unlimitedly. And you can define it according to your relationship with the beach. One can define Krishna according to one's relationship with Krishna. But one should know that it's, and it's not wrong. It's like, my Bondi Beach, stay away from my Bondi Beach. This is my beach. This is my Krishna. Shamsundar Krishna is mine. Or Krishna is my husband. Krishna is my wife. That is perfectly wonderful. Sorry, not my wife, my son, etc. That's perfectly wonderful. But nonetheless, from a philosophical point of view, Krishna is bigger than just these definitions. And that's what this particular verse expresses. So we will stop here. These verses are extremely beautiful and capable of a lot more elaboration, but we will stop here. I apologize again for the interruptions because of the system and the delay again because of the system. And I'm sorry if your schedule has been thrown upside down. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.